All right, so when we talk about the Dmaic framework, it's a way we can understand our process and break down certain components of a project. During the define phase, this is where we're going to initiate where the project charter happens, right? That team charter, how is decisions going to be made? That process map. Typically, this is done in the analyze phase, but as I discussed with the cluster and Lean Six Sigma courses, the process map usually helps us define our process in a way because we can understand what the value is of it. Then we have the SIPOC diagram, which stands for supplier, input, process, output, and customer, right? It's a good way we can map our process from that 30,000 foot view. We then have critical to quality metrics identified, right? What are the customer defining metrics to identify what is a good process in an organization? Then you have process verification. This is where you're going through and you're looking at the process as a way to anticipate what are the next steps going forward. How do we understand that this is a good project? Right? Is this going to yield the best result for the company? During the measurement phase of Lean Six Sigma, we're going to do MSA, which stands for Measurement System Analysis, where we identify gaps in the metrics and performance evolution. This comes up with creating a data collection plan, where in Lean Six Sigma we talk about things such as central tendency, standard deviation, the mean, median, and mode, and basic statistical metrics such as z-scores to understand and lead us to our next aspect, which is baseline capability. How do you understand what your baseline is? Those CP and CPK metrics, right? Process capability analysis in here. And that'll lead to us understanding and estimating what is the cost of poor quality in an organization. Now, as you'll learn in the Lean Six Sigma program that we talk about, we're going from the cost of poor quality and using DPMO as a metric to understand that, right? What is the cost if we don't take action and we do nothing? That leads us to our analysis phase. How do we analyze our process to get the best yield and best performance? This is where we talk about the cost-benefit analysis, analyzing the metrics that we determined in the measurement phase and finding that critical metric that leads to the success of our continuous improvement project. This then goes to mistake proofing. How do you error-proof something? How do you do the implementation plan? You know, we can talk about ideas all day, but unless we put a plan together, we're going to be continuously talking about it instead of continuously improving. How are we going to test and track that data, right? And we identify a course of action from this analyze phase. In Lean Six Sigma, we break each class up into different days and then put the analyze phase about the third or fourth day, but we break it up in a way where you're working with project groups throughout and kind of networking and growing your own capability in Six Sigma analyses. So the define, measure, and analyze phase, those are your typical white through green Lean Six Sigma belt levels. You then have the green belts where they're really going to be focused on improving a process. How are they going to validate those root cause facts, those metrics? What kind of failure mode effect analysis or ORM, operational risk management, are they going to put into play here? How are we going to update the process maps? Now in Six Sigma, we'll talk about the current state of your operation and then the future state of the operation. And you'll see how one's a striving mechanism for process and continual improvement. You know, this is where we'll talk about hypothesis testing, where we're testing our result to see if we're going to prove an effect. We'll then do a regression analysis to see if our process yielded a good result that was conclusive and led to continuous improvement efforts. Then we're going to update and estimate the process capability now. This is where we're saying, don't start something unless you can finish it. And this is where you're driving along those little W's along the way. You can use the Dmaic system to be a great framework for continuous improvement. Lastly, we're going to dive into the control aspect. As soon as you hear control, I want you to think of standard operating procedures. How are you going to do those corrective action procedures in that SOP? How are you going to document it? What are some control metrics you're going to identify, those control charts? And how are we going to plan that control aspect? When we talk about operating procedures, one of the reasons I put an SOP here is because it's crucial to sustain that continuous improvement effort.